Hi everyone, welcome to Hmoob Txaij Part 2 on how to finish up the shirt. We will be making your sleeves in this section, and you have 3 pattern pieces: the full, the top of the sleeve, and the stripe. The first piece you're going to cut out is the top of the sleeve. This is the piece that's going to connect to your shirt pieces, so you want it to match that color. So mine is going to be black here to match the body of my shirt. If you choose to make yours blue or pink, then you'll want to make this part that color as well. Next, we're going to cut out our stripes. And here you see that I have some new tools. I'm using a cutting mat and a rotary cutter. And this will just help me cut my stripes a little bit faster. So I'm using a thicker ruler to go on top of my stripe pattern, and then rolling the rotary cutter right along the edge of the ruler so that I can cut out the strip a little bit faster. You want to be careful using a rotary cutter because it does have a sharp blade. So if you're more comfortable chalking out your stripe and then using a pair of scissors to cut, feel free to do it that way. My rotary cutter isn't too sharp here, so I'm having to clean up using the scissors. But it's the same process, and you should be cutting out 12 black stripes. And I'm repeating this process with blue because I'm choosing to make my stripes blue. If you choose to do it a different color, that's totally optional. Some people like to do green. So I'm repeating the process with the rotary cutter, my ruler, and my cutting mat. And I have also 12 pieces of blue stripes. Next, we're going to light a candle, and we're going to burn or singe all the edges of our stripes. And this is to prevent fraying, so that there's not a bunch of little thread sticking out of the fabric. That tends to happen when you're working with stripes and trying to piece them all together. Now I've laid out all my stripes and the top of the sleeve in the pattern that's indicated on the big template, and it's easier to start with sewing the stripes together. So I've started with the top pieces here and pinned them together, and I'm going to sew them down using just over a 1/4 inch seam, a little bit under a half. Once you have that together, you're going to iron your fabric flat, and I'm ironing the extra fabric towards the black side. Next, you're going to connect the next stripe, which is going to be blue. But before that, I'm going to show you guys a tip here. To make a perfect straight line without having to guess, which is really difficult, you can take your clear ruler, line up your 1 inch with the thread line that you've just sewn, and then chalk a line that's going to be a whole inch out. And then pin that with the next blue stripe and sew right on the chalk line. So you don't have to do any guessing, and this will help you get a really straight stripe because straight lines are actually kind of hard to do when you're doing the sleeve. The straighter your stripes are and the more even they are, the easier it'll be to achieve a really nice sleeve at the end where the stripes match up at the seam when we're sewing the sleeve together. So here we finish ironing the fabric flat, and we're going to add another stripe. But before that, we're going to use the chalking tip and match up the 1 inch line to the thread, and then chalk out wherever that 1 inch line ends, and then pin down our next stripe color and sew them together. You want to repeat this process until you get a nice big block of fabric that looks like this, made from stripes. and then you're going to connect the last piece, which is the top of the sleeve. And to do that, all you want to do is pin the pieces together and then sew it together. Don't forget to iron your seam so that your fabric is nice and flat. Here's your completed block of fabric for your Hmoob Txaij sleeve. You're going to take your template and place it right on top, pin it down, and cut out your sleeve. And this is why it's important to try and keep your stripes as even and straight as possible, so that when you cut out the sleeve, it's going to be an even sleeve and everything will match up on both sides. Don't forget to take your template and also cut out a lining for your sleeve. Once you have your lining and your Hmoob Txaij sleeve cut out, you're going to now connect them together at the wrist. Make sure the good side of the sleeves are facing each other, bad sides on the outside. And sew it down using about a 1/2 inch seam line at the bottom. Once it's sewn together, you want to flip it all the way over so that all the seam lines are in the inside, and then you're going to iron the wrist opening nice and flat. Now that all our shirt pieces are complete, we can go ahead and start sewing them together. Here are our 2 front pieces, our back piece, and our sleeve. To sew our shirt together, we want to start with the back and front pieces, and we want to connect them together at the shoulder. A tip here is to pull up the fabric here and make sure that your dia is matching up on both sides. If you don't check that, then you might end up with your dia pieces not matching up at the shoulders. So you could see I'm doing kind of a slight fold over here and making sure that the white ends at least match up, so that when you're done sewing it together, you'll have matching parts at the very top of the shoulders. Don't forget to serge the shoulder once it's sewn together. Shoulders are connected here and serged, and once flipped over, you can see that my dia matches up nicely, blue on blue, pink on pink, white on white. And then we're going to clip the excess fabric in the armholes off here on both sides. And this is in preparation to add our sleeves next. So I like to start at the center of the sleeves and match the center up with the shoulder line, and then work from one side over to the other side. And the trick here is to make sure that the sewing section, which is about a 1/2 inch away from the edge, is nice and flat, but there can be bumps right along the edge, and that's to give your shoulder a little bit of ease or room for movement. Some of these sleeves will have extra fabrics at the end. That's okay. You want to just make sure that it's about the same amount on both sides. Once you have everything pinned in place, then you can go ahead and sew your sleeve to the shirt. And you can see I'm sewing about a 1/2 inch away from the edge, and I'm not taking out any needles until I get there. And you'll see that there is bumps along the edges. What I'm doing so that it doesn't all bunch up is pulling the fabric away from me towards the foot and the needle. So you can see I'm doing that with my right hand here, and that will help so that it moves the fabric along and it doesn't just bunch up all towards the needles. So I'm moving fabric over slightly and then sewing. This is a slower process, and what this does is it doesn't bunch up all the fabric in one spot so that you're going to get a bump where the excess fabric is laying on top of each other. Then you'll have to go back in and take that out. Once you're done sewing it together, you'll want to serge your shoulder together. My sleeves are now attached to the shirt. You can see everything is serged nicely. Once everything is connected, we're now going to finish up and close up the shirt. And to do that, we will be pinning the sides of the shirt and the sleeve together. I like to start at the armpits and work my way down towards the hem of the shirt, and then work my way from the wrist back towards the armhole. Next, I want to pin my sleeve together, and you can see I'm lifting up the edge here and making sure that my stripes match up. And where the edges of the stripes match up, I'm pinning it down so that none of the fabric shifts, so that my stripes meet up and I don't have to go back and fix it. If you don't pin tightly, then the stripes will move around and won't match up, and you'll have to redo the sewing part. So flip up your fabric on the edge here, make sure the stripes are matched up, and then pin them down tightly. Once everything is pinned down tightly, we're going to start sewing from the sleeve all the way down to the hem. And the trick for the sleeve here is not to take out any needles until you get right to it. And this is to prevent the fabric from shifting, and so it'll help your stripes match up perfectly. If you take out the needles too soon, your fabric might shift a little bit, so your stripes will not match up as well. So instead of serging right away, we're going to flip open our sleeves here and take a look at the seams on the sleeve and make sure that our stripes are matching up perfectly. If you're off by a lot where it's very noticeable, this is where you can go back in, take out the thread, and redo the sewing prior to cutting off the extra fabric and serging your shirt closed. This is also the step where you can actually try on your shirt and make sure that it fits you okay. Once everything fits okay, then you can go ahead and trim off the excess sleeve fabric here before you head over to your serger machine or your ultra lock and serge everything closed. Once you have the sleeve and sides serged closed, you can go ahead and also serge the bottom closed and clean off all of that raw edge. This last and final step is an optional step. I like to get rid of the serge at the bottom and fold it up about 1/2 inch and then actually sew it down flat. This will also just help with the longevity of the shirt so that none of the thread that's part of the serge is going to come out. And here is the shirt completely finished with the hem folded up. We're going to flip the sleeves inside out, and you have your nicely completed shirt. If you're looking at how to attach your dotch haul, there's another video in our channel, so hop on over there and take a look at how to make a dotch haul and attach it to your Hmoob Txaij shirt. Thank you so much for enjoying this video.